Alright, so I was just making a video on the basics of SEO and just how websites are optimized in general. I covered off how search engine works in general. If you haven't seen that video, you might want to go back to it. It's for noobs, for anyone who hasn't actually done anything on search engine optimization before. But this video here, I'm going to start probing into it a little bit more and start looking at the first bit, which is on-page optimization. It's the fundamentals for SEO, and I'm just going to start with basically on-page optimization. I mentioned in my last video, for anyone who wants to ask me any questions, just feel free to pop me an email there, and I'll answer them and try to get you some useful information and something that we can possibly share on the videos that I'll be making. So I'm going to go back to the example I had before. The last example I had was you search an immigration agency on google.com.au. Out comes this site, alfieagency.com.au in position 1. And we'd like to have a look into this page and just see what are the things that it has in common that makes it what are the things on the page in terms of optimization techniques have they used on this page. Now, before I go into any more detail on that, I'm just going to reiterate, on-page optimization is the process of managing or managing what's on the site in terms of looking at the HTML and controlling what HTML we show Google, or any of the search engines. So in this case here, I'm looking at, say, alfieagency.com.au, this page here. If you want to look at the code behind, I'm just going to close that window. If you want to look at the code behind this page in terms of HTML, you need to view that page source. Now, some of you might be coding in PHP, you might be coding in ASP.NET, you might be coding in a whole bunch of different sort of confusing or varying types of platforms, and so the code looks different on every platform as you're coding it, but fundamentally they all render down to HTML. Now, most experienced web developers will know that, but if you don't, you just need to realize that no matter what happens, it's HTML that comes out at the end, and it's the HTML that Google reads. So let's look at this page here. Now I just saw that already, and this is the first time I've looked at the code properly. I've just realized there are a few holes in this, and it just goes to show how easy sometimes it is to optimize a page. Let's just look at the basics here, right? Let's look at this page here. The point of on-page optimization is to so with the example I used was I search immigration agency and this page appears. So the point of on-page optimization is try to get this page to be as relevant as possible to immigration agency. So let's pretend that Alfie Agency isn't on the first page of Google. In fact, it is miles away. It's not in position 1. And you're optimizing site, you want to get it on the first page. So you might look at the page and say, well, how do I make this page more relevant to the search term immigration agency? This is a bit of a push and pull thing. I'm going to come back to the principle to it a little bit later. In terms of choices, in terms of making the selection of what keywords to go for and how to choose what to actually go in here, I'm going to use that as a separate talk. So I'm not sure if I made myself clear, but basically the decision on which keywords to target, how to use your content to do it, I'm going to have to go over that with a little bit more depth. What I am going to cover in this specific session is just to look at, let's assume that we're going to rank this page for the search term immigration agency. Let's just assume that decision's made. I'm going to talk about making the decision in another chat, but let's assume that it's decided, right? First thing we need to understand is I'm actually optimizing a web page. With on-page optimization, you're optimizing a page at a time. This here is a page. It's not just the whole site. It is one of the pages, because if you click on any of the other links, you'll go to another page. See, here's the here's this other page. So there is a root page, or the index page, or the main home page of the site, and that usually resides here. So I'm actually optimizing the home page, right, for clarity's sake. What I'm going to do is we'll look at this page here, and you just need to remember, it's actually quite simple. There's only a handful of things you need to remember to do at all times, right? Number one, these are the tags. You can pretty much write this down and stick it on the wall, and go in the order of this this list that I've given you, and you can't go wrong. The first and most important thing that you can control for sure. So there's one. I'm going to start with the things that are guaranteed that you can control, and so this is the first one that you can. It's the title of the page. That is this piece of code here. So if you look at the code, you can see there is often a title tag like that, right? This here marks the opening title tag, and that marks the closing title tag. So everything in between here is your title. That's the first thing that you can control. So you can control your title. The second thing you can control is your description. The third thing you can control, I'll show you the description first. Here's your description. And it's actually blank. In this case, the description is actually left empty. So the second thing you can control is the description. The third thing you can control is the keywords on your page. The fourth thing you control is your H1 tag. So I'll come back to keywords, or actually I'll go through the list. Your H2 tags and your H3, for example. And then you've got your body tags, right? Or your main sort of your texts on your page. So let's go through this list. So I've showed you what your title was. The description, I've shown you where the description was. Your keywords, in the same sort of fashion, you've got a meta tag for keywords. And you can put your keywords here, like so, right? And then the fourth one you have control of is your H1 tag. So I'm just going to search for the H1 tag to see if it's here somewhere. Here it is. Here's the H1 tag, Immigration Agency Australia. Oops, clicked on that link, right? Then you've got H2 tags and H3 tags. So your H2 tag is here. Oh, they don't have an H2, and they have H3s. They do have H3s. Here's one H3, another H3, another H3. So here's the their H3s, and it's got employment-related visas, for example, is that they've got 10 H3s in total. Then, of course, they've got the base texts. So what does this all mean, right? I've shown you these tags. So let's go with the first one. Where does the title actually show? Well, in fact, the title shows here. You see this here? Immigration Agency Australia. It also shows on Google as there. That's your title. The second thing that you can control is the description. Your description doesn't show anywhere on the page. The only place that the description shows is here. Now, I did notice there was a duplicate description, so let me just double check if they've put in their description twice. 1, 2, there is 2 descriptions. Okay, they're both empty, so they put description there twice, but it's empty. Now, if in the absence of a description, Google basically reads through your page and picks something and puts it up there. But here, if you fill in your description tag, you can basically control what you're going to show right here. You can control what you're going to show here. So title controls this, title controls this, description controls this. And that's the code for it right there. Description controls it. Yeah. Okay. Then you've got your H1s, and let's just find where the first H1 was. The first H1 actually says Immigration Agency Australia. That's the H1. So let's just see where that H1 is on that page. So Immigration Agency Australia. In fact, it'll be this one. Here's a little trick you can do with Chrome. You can actually do this with Firefox as well, but this is why I use Chrome, because you don't have to install any add-ins or anything. It's all default there. I can inspect that element, and you can see straight away, here it is. It is an H1. I'm not sure if you can see this. I hope you can see this in the video properly, but here it is, Immigration Agency Australia. So that there is the H1. It's highlighted now. right? Your H2s and H3s are again just minor headings, so it's probably this. This is probably an H3. I would expect that to be the H3. Yep, and here's another H3. Partner visas. Yeah, see that? So what are we trying to do? Well, then of course there's the body text, which is all this bit here. So what we're trying to do when we're saying I can control it, I'm going to control what goes into the title, and the title of the page, and the control that I need to get, because if I want to be found on immigration agency, what I need to make sure is that this word immigration agency is used in title, is used in your description, it is used in your keywords, it is used in your H1, H2, H3s, and your body texts. So let's look through this page. It's there on the title, right? Nice. In fact, it's a bit more than nice. It starts with immigration agency. It's starting with the search term you want to rank on is always a good thing. So immigration agency Australia is what they had here. In fact, I know if I search immigration agency Australia, they have to be on the first page somewhere. There they are, position 1, right? It's an exact match to what they had in their title. The title is one of the major, most contributing. If you could only do one of these 6 items, the title is probably one of the heaviest hitting one. The second one is the description. Now they've ignored to use the description, but if it was my site, I would make sure that they had a piece of description text. Now in this case, you'll notice, see, Alpha is your Australian Immigration Agency. This piece of text here was actually immediately used as the description for the site. But if it was my site, I would make sure that I'd explicitly tell Google or tell the bots as they come along, this is my description. And again, in my description, I would make sure the keywords immigration agency is used, because that's the keyword we want to rank on. If possible, I would start my description with immigration agency. The same thing applies to your keywords. So you grab your keywords. See, if you look at this, I could criticize it and say, where is the word immigration agency on it? Now, they might not be trying to rank on the keyword immigration agency. I'm just assuming you want to rank on immigration agency. So if you did want to rank on immigration agency, then, then you need to have immigration agency in here. Now, you don't want it at the end of your keywords. You want it at the beginning of your keywords if you can. Right, so every time you want to give a sort of prioritization to search engines. Tell them what's the most important keyword that you want to be ranking on. Start with that and end with the least important. You've got H1 tags. So that main H1 tag, that's a beautiful H1 tag. It's got immigration agency on there, and it starts with immigration agency. Then of course your H2 and H3s. It becomes less important when you start looking at the H2 and H3 level, but you do want combinations of the words. Ideally, you want to have immigration agency used in an H2. Ideally, I mean, you can't always force your content to look that way, but ideally, you want to get the word immigration agency into your H2s and H3s. You know, if you really sit there and think about it as you're authoring this content, you can probably find ways to sneak it in. Same with your body text. You can probably find ways to sneak it in. I'll look through here, for example. You can probably look at, look for opportunities to fill in, add extra little sentences to get the word immigration agency in there. Now, with the body text, if you can bold the words immigration agency, it just all adds up to the on-page relevance to the search term immigration agency. Right, I've got 30 seconds to go. So I've given a really broad stroke, simple way to look at getting content onto your page to make your page relevant to a search term. So this is the list again, right? Remember that list. And if you've got any questions, again, pop me an email at mastermind@messageforce.com. I will respond with them and try to make more of these sort of short videos and answer more questions. But yeah, here's your list. You go through your title, description, keywords, H1, H2, H3s, and your body text. Have fun.